Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Season 2 of the World Championship Series. This is the Challenger Selection Show, where we figure out which Premier players from Season 1 are going to be playing off against the Challenger players coming through here into Season 2.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this part. For me, draws so exciting to see happen. To watch it slowly happen here is going to be fantastic, and especially because this is really where Season 2 starts for the World Championship Series. The qualifiers are over. We have 64 players ready to go, and this is the base of the World Championship Series.
Yes, it is. All right, so let's start things off as we take a look at our Premier players coming through from Season number 1. Obviously, we've got 14 of those players coming through from the previous season.
That's right, and unlike the previous year, every single player, aside from the winner, which was Polt, has to go and play in Challenger. So all 14 players that represented Europe in Season 1 are now here in Challenger. But these guys are the players with the upper hand and the advantage in the selection process, as they are going to be picking out the challengers who have newly qualified into the WCS.
Yeah, and that really shakes things up. So let's also take a look at the Challenger players that have been able to qualify through the process to actually get to this position here.
Yeah, you can see some really big names that have come through the qualifier here. Names that stand out. Harston is back in WCS, a big name that unfortunately couldn't make it to Premier League in Season 1. Hero Marine is in there. Petreus is in there. Rhett is in there. Marine Lord is back in there. Some massive, massive names that are really looking to mix it up with the Premier League players.
Yep. All right, so now this moves us on swiftly to exactly where we need to be, which is on the left-hand side, as you can see, we have our Premier League players. All the matches from seeds 1 through 7 are going to be decided from the pool of Challenger players that we have on the right-hand side. As you can see, that's where all of them can choose from.
And that's where all the challengers will be eliminated from. We'll pick them from this box on the right-hand side, cross their name out, and move them into the matchup side. But on the left-hand side, the names are listed 1 to 7, but there are ties that are going to happen not on just this page, but on the next one as well.
Yeah, and we'll quickly take a look at the second page here as well, just to keep everything nice and wrapped up, as we have a few more ties on this page as well, with Lonely Targa at the bottom, so he doesn't get much say in the issue, so he is going to be playing, and to figure things out, because we're unable to, we need to send things over to our StarCraft 2 operations specialist here, and figure that out. So, Graham, let's figure out who is going to be number 1 and number 2 in our picks.
Okay. So
Thank you for joining us, Graham.
Thank you very much.
I know you got a very busy schedule, so thank you for taking some time to do this for us today.
Okay, so the number 1 seed for Europe is Bunny.
Okay, and then show us the second name, please, from that ball.
And just to be transparent with everything, Showtime is indeed the other player.
Thank you very much. So Bunny is going to be the first player to have his pick on the 14 challengers, and then Showtime will be second. But there's also one final tiebreaker. There was 2 on the original page there that we looked at. We got 1 more to do.
Yes, we do. So Cyril and Firecake. Once again, we shall head over to Graham to figure out who is going to be picking 6th and 7th here on our first page.
Okay, same deal again. Number 6 seed will be Cyril.
All right, and then the second name, obviously, in that ball, Graham, just to confirm things,
is indeed
Upside Down Firecake.
Firecake.
Thank you very much, Graham. So that's that sorted, and we won't go into the draws on the next page. We'll go into that in a little bit. We'll do one step at a time here. This is a brand new process and a brand new show for your entertainment back at home. But that leaves us with 1 to 7 in seeding that are ready to go.
Yes, with Bunny leading the charts there. So Bunny gets the first choice, which we can now find out. Out of our Challenger players, he gets to pick fresh. Who is going to be the first player he picks out of Challenger?
Bunny's first player, his first pick, is Beastie QT.
Wow, okay, so already opening things up with a Terran versus Terran there. Beastie QT going to be playing up against Bunny, and with the TVTs that we saw from Bunny in Season 1, he's got to be looking as the firm favourite.
Yeah, Bunny's definitely the favourite here, and one of 14 players he's chosen straight to Beastie QT. He could have played anybody. That's the advantage of being the first seed here. He goes straight for Beastie QT. They've got a very minimal match history together over the years. They've played 1 game in all of time, And that was just last month in March, and it was just a 1-0 go for StarCraft Cup in favor of Bunny. Funny, because both of them have been around for a very, very long time. BCQT has been around for much longer than Bunny in the competitive scene, but he's come back recently to compete within the WCS. He's not to full strength yet, and Bunny's picked him up, and this is definitely Bunny's match.
Yeah, I would say so as well. So now we can move on to game number 2 here of our challenger position, as we have Showtime. Who is he going to pick? Graham, over to you.
Showtime has gone for Elazer, the Polish Terran, I believe.
All right, a player that I don't know too much about here, Sean. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know that much about him coming through into Challenger.
Yeah, so Elazer is a 70-year-old Polish Zerg player. A little bit of a mistake there from our online operations specialist.
Oh.
Online operations, he must stay. He's got to keep off these shows, maybe. Slight mistake there, but he is a Zerg player, but he's very new to the scene. It's his debut within the WCS, and Showtime... Oh, he's gonna beat him up here a little bit. We know how good Showtime is. Showtime displayed excellence in the first season with his top 4 finish. Now he's going up against this player who he's going to be definitely victimizing on the very minimal experience that Elazer has.
All right, so that does it for our first 2 picks here going into Challenger. Now let's head over to number 3, which will be 4GG. So let's go over to our senior clipboard map purveyor to figure out who it's going to be.
4GG in another TVT will be playing Soul.
Soul, all right. So, again, you know, we haven't really seen him too much outside of Polish EPS, where he has done quite well in the past, but how well is he going to stack up against 4GG?
Well, history says we will never know because they've never played against each other before. This is the first official match, but this is the giant that is 4GG, and we know that he is so very, very good in Terran versus Terran, has selected his best matchup, and has selected Soul, definitely one of the 2 weaker players out of the entire of the 14, for sure. Everybody looked at Elazer and Soul to be the 2 players that will get picked on the most here. And now we've already seen them get picked up by Showtime and 4GG. You've got to practice. You've got to, basically, the advice for Soul is you've got to find a Terran practice partner, obviously, and you have to make him play like 4GG, which almost nobody can do. It's going to be very difficult for him to be able to compete against 4GG.
Yeah, all right. So now we move on to pick number 4 here, which will be, of course, Liquid Snoot as we move on to the Liquid Boys. Let's find out who he's going to pick for Challenger, Graham.
Snoot gets his number 1 pick. It's a Zerg versus Zerg. It's Bly.
All right. Wow. Okay. Bly's pretty good at Zerg versus Zerg. You know, you see him on a lot of these online cups. Does pretty well in Zerg versus Zerg.
Yeah, Bly's definitely a menace when he comes to playing StarCraft. He plays a very, very aggressive, has his unique own style, and he's going to be bringing that to Snoot. But one thing that heavily favors Snoot, since 2011, their head-to-head record is 12 Series 1 to 3 lost in favor of Snoot. He has beaten this guy a lot, online and offline, over the years. Snoot's comfortable in Zerg versus Zerg. I think he's going to be feeling very confident against Bly, as good as Bly can be in this matchup.
Yeah, it will be difficult for him regardless. Snoot, as you said, you know, very, very strong in this matchup as well. So let's head over to another Liquid Zerg. Of course, it is TLO. Let's find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger, Graham.
Well, this one's a battle of 2 players who've been around a long, long time in the European scene. It's TLO versus Nurtio.
Oh, wow. Another Zerg versus Zerg here, Sean.
One thing that stands out is both Snoot and TLO play against Zerg players now, so they're going to be able to practice against each other in preparation for Bly and Nurtio. That's really good for Team Liquid there, to be able to play different styles and mix it up and really dive deep into Zerg versus Zerg. But when you're looking at TLO versus Nurtio, TLO has been doing very good in Zerg versus Zerg recently. Very well. I mean, his entire Season 1 was based off the back of Zerg versus Zerg, pretty much. But one thing that stands out, despite TLO being very good at this matchup, against Nurtio, over the years since 2011, only 4 Series 1 to 14 lost. That is a big head-to-head in favor of Nurtio.
Yeah. That's a big statement as well from TLO, considering he feels that his Zerg vs. Zerg is probably miles ahead of where it was once.
Yeah, he's got to go against the stats here and just play the matchup that he's confident in, and hopefully that can help him shine through.
All right, well, we have 2 more picks here on page number 1, of course. With Cyril winning that second tiebreaker here on our first page, let's head over to Graham once again to figure out who Cyril is going to be playing.
Cyril will be playing against... We've seen this match already last season. It's Harstem.
Wow. He's picked him out. This is super surprising here. So Cyril has already defeated Harson 3-0 in the Season 1 Challenger match. It's time to do that again. This time, Harson gets take 2. Is he going to be eliminated? And in Challenger, that kept Harson away from a Premier League that he absolutely deserves to have. He's definitely a Premier League player. But Cyril's picked him out again.
Yeah, that's a bit brutal because the thing is that I don't think when people went into that game in Season 1 and saw Cyril Harston, people probably gave Harston a lot of sway in that. And now we've seen how well Cyril can do in between all of that. I think the bets are going to be a little bit different going into this next one, I think.
Yeah, that's Harson's definitely going to be gunning for revenge in this matchup. I can't believe that's a rematch from Season 1.
Well, that now brings us neatly on to our final pick of page number 1. It is going to be Firecake, so let's see who he is going to go for.
It's very curious, actually. The Zergs are calling out the Zergs. This is Firecake versus Zanster.
Versus Zanster. Okay, okay.
Okay, so let's have a look. I wrote some stuff down about these guys. Cyril, Firecake and Zanster. They've only played once, and it was in a Go for StarCraft tournament in March, and Firecake lost 0-3.
Ooh.
So, you know, he's maybe looking to get some own personal revenge here. But I think the thing that stands out the most for Firecake is that the Swarm host changes happened, and the game is still trying to be heavily figured out, especially Zerg versus Terran, because the Swarm hosts just aren't as good as they used to be, and against Protoss as well, which we know Firecake is very good at. So right now, he's chosen Zerg versus Zerg, which makes a lot of sense for his development as a player, or redevelopment as a player, to try to figure out how to play StarCraft 2 again. Now a major change has happened to his playstyle. So Zerg versus Zerg is just a good basis to land that on.
Yeah.
And then looking at the players that were left remaining in Zergs, it was either Zanster or Ret if he was going to pick a Zerg. So he's chosen Zanster, potentially the weaker of the two. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, even Firecake has had some really, really good results off Zerg versus Zerg recently as well. I think he did very well at Gamers Assembly, aside from the World Championship Series tournament that was actually going on there. So that does it for our first page. Let's just quickly take a look at that once again. Is there anything in particular that stands out for you here so far, Sean?
I love the Cyril Harston matchup, and I love that both the Liquid Boys have picked up 2 Zerg players. I want to see if Sol can take a map against 4GG. But apart from that, they're pretty obvious picks. I do like the picks that we've seen so far, but I'm more interested now with the players that we have left remaining, which we will go into very shortly. We have Kung Fu Panda left, Elfie, Lilbo, Marine Lord, Hero Marine, and Ret. And these are the most feared players, apparently.
Apparently.
Because they haven't been picked yet.
Yeah, that is true. So let's head over to page 2 now. Now, before we get into the picking process, once again, we have a few ties that we need to settle. So first is Welmu and Mana. So once again, we shall head over to Graham to figure out who is going to be picking first and second out of those two.
Lovely finger work.
That's what she said. It's Welmu.
All right, Welmu will be first pick in that. And Mana should be in that bowl as well, Graham. Okay,
the sigh of relief every time I get it right.
Well, you are the operations specialist, so...
You shouldn't be making mistakes like this.
No, you shouldn't.
Not at this level, Graham.
No, this is the very, very top tier. All right, so now we have another tiebreaker here between Euthermal and Morrow. So let's head over to Graham once again to figure out yet another tiebreaker here.
Okay. And we have Euthermal.
Euthermal. Okay, so Euthermal will be number 1, and with Morrow taking that second spot as well. As Graham will unfold the piece of paper to reveal the name that is Morrow.
Thank you very much, Graham. So far, so good, but we've got one last tiebreaker to go, Graham. So you've got one more chance to not mess up.
One more shuffling. Let's go over to Graham once again to find out Naniwa and Happy who is going to be picking first and second out of those two.
It will be Happy.
All right, Happy number 1.
Which leaves us with Naniwa as the second to last pick, so he gets to choose between 2 of the last challenges remaining.
Okay, and obviously that does leave us with Targa at the very bottom here of page number 2, as he doesn't really have much say in the matter. Now, of course, with Welmu and Mana up there, Welmu being our first pick, during this, let's head over to Graham to figure out who he's going to be playing first in Challenger.
3 Protoss, 2 Terrans, and 1 Zerg left.
It's the Zerg. It's
Rhett.
Oh, wow. Okay, Wellmu versus Rhett. And, you know, Wellmu is a tricky guy, and I'm not surprised he's able to pick up Rhett here because Rhett is a player that in the past has fallen to those kind of tricks very, very easily.
Yeah, and definitely can fall to the tricks again in this best of 5 series. I'm more interested to wonder why Wellmu wouldn't pick against a Terran or Protoss, because I feel that these matchups and the potential matchups that he could have are maybe stronger suited towards him. But maybe it's just a personal preference, and a pick on Red here is one of the last left. But I don't know. Red is the pick for him.
All right, so that now means we can go over to Mana now, the other liquid boy left in the proceedings here, as we find out who his challenger opponent is going to be.
It's a former teammate, and another repeat from last season. It's Hero Marine.
I was not expecting that one. That is quite the shocker, actually. Of course, they did play, as you said, Graham. They did play in Season 1, but Hero Marine is an extremely strong opponent out of this list of players in Challenger.
Yeah, that's... I mean, he could have chose Marine Lord over Hero Marine if he wanted to play a Terran, but he's called him out again, and this is our second rematch from Challenger in Season 1. We've got the Hearthstone and Serral match, and now we've got Mana and Hero Marine. And if you didn't watch the Challenger match between Mana and Hero Marine, Mana lost the first 2 games to come back to win 3 games to 2, and now he's like, no, I'll do it again. Maybe you doubted me that I couldn't do it the first time, and you thought I was lucky to win game number 5. Well, watch this. I'll do it again and win again in Season 2. That's a big call out.
All right, so now we can move on to the few remaining players that we have left here. It's going to be Euthermal for our next choice. Let's find out who he's going to be playing against in Challenger.
Euthermal is going against Lil Bao.
Lil Bao. Wow. How high was that up on his picks?
Number 7, so just shy of half.
Okay.
Midway.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult matchup for both sides, I would say, because Euthermal is great against Protoss, but Lil Bao is one of the best European Protoss players, or one of the players to rise to the top of the scene, or at least will do, hopefully, by the end of the year. So a very difficult match, a very close match between these two.
Yeah, I would say so as well. Lil Bao, everyone speaks of him with fear in the European scene at the moment, so it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Now we can move on to the player that did tie with Euthermal and obviously got on the shorter end of that straw. It is Morrow, so let's move on to find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger.
Morrow will play Patreus.
Patreus, okay. A player that I was going to say recently moved over to Europe, but it's been a little while now, hasn't it, Sean?
Yeah, he's been living in Switzerland for quite a while now, working and training. Is one of the players that plays the most on the ladder, practices a lot every single day, and one of the more feared players, no doubt here, to be able to choose from in the challenges. So a massive pick, It's going to be difficult, but Morrow's shown that he can play against Zerg players.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to show it here again against one of the best.
Yeah, you're right. He showed it in Season 1 in that first game of his group, in that upset versus Hydra. Unfortunately, was unable to advance on from that group, but there was that upset potential there that Morrow is able to show. So now moving on, we have 3 players remaining here on our EU side of things as we head over to Happy to find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger, Graham.
Happy in a TBT? Marine Lord.
Ooh, Marine Lord. Another very, very fearful player here in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. Marine Lord had a fantastic series against 4GG. Unfortunately, wasn't able to defeat him in Season 1 Challenger. But now he's going up against Happy, and this is going to be a difficult match. But over the years, again, in 2013 and now coming into 2014 and 15, Happy has a big lead head-to-head against this guy. He's got a 9 series to 2 series win-loss ratio. And that's not maps. He's won a lot of maps and lost very few. This is a very confident pick from Happy, and this is going to be hard for Marine Lord, I think, despite how well he played against 4GG.
Personally, I'm leaning over to Marine Lord. I think Marine Lord will be able to do pretty well there. We shall find out, though. I mean, as these picks have gone on down later on, there is some unpredictability there in these Challenger matches. But now we can move on to the player that he tied with, but again, got the short end of the straw. It is Naniwa. Let's find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger.
Well, if you haven't guessed already, it's definitely a PvP.
Yep.
And Naniwa has picked out the Kung Fu Panda. It's Gung Fu Banda.
All right then. So another German representative here, moving on through, and a player that has actually had quite a lot of waves being shaken up here in the German scene. He's really risen to prominence along with people like Hero Marine and Showtime in the scene.
Yeah, this is a nice pick from Naniwa. Just to be usually when there's 2 players left, it's like, who would I rather not play? Or as much as it's like, yeah, I want to play that guy, you also keep in consideration, do I want to play this one? So Elfie is a tricky player, and it's funny to say, out of all the challenges that we had, Elfie was the one that was left till the last here, which Target has to play against. So PvP, Naniwa played a PvP, and he lost in Season 1. Based off PvP games, so he's going to have to really work hard and hopefully can defeat Kung Fu Panda in that best of 5.
Yeah, it might be difficult, but as as you've been saying before, he's the kind of player that is a bit more predictable than a guy like Elfie. But Targa, for his draw, I don't think it's that bad. He's a very strong reactionary player, and Elfie's that unpredictable, wild, crazy guy that can bring some unpredictability to the table.
Absolutely, but I feel that Targa is going to be very comfortable with having Elfie there, just because out of all the other players he could have played against, Elfie is probably one of the weaker opponents that Targa, as a Zerg player, could have wished for. If you think about the likes of, Petreus coming in, I guess Targa's Zerg vs. Zerg's pretty good, but Harston was definitely a feared player. There was others in there too, but I think he'd be happy with that.
All right, so that does it for our draw here in Europe. Let's take a brief overlook at exactly what's gone on. So let's head over to our first 7 matchups, of course. I'm running down the list. What really stands out for you again? I think you've mentioned a few already.
Yeah, 2 games that I can't wait to watch. Selra versus Harston, and probably there's Team Liquid Zerg matchups there. The Zerg versus Zerg games.
All right, and now we move over to page 2, of course, as well, as we have our 8th through 14th seeded Premier players going up against our challengers. And again, Sean, what really is going to stand out for you here?
I'm just looking at the matchups. I love the rematch between Mana and Hero Marine. I think every match is going to be great, and I can't wait to broadcast all of them. But I really cannot wait for that rematch between Mana and Hero Marine to see if Mana is as confident as his pick suggests, or is Hero Marine actually going to get revenge and take this one for himself? That's a game that stands out.
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of unpredictability there, some wild card games that could go either way, but it's going to be good for sure. And that pretty much does it for us here in our Europe Challenger selection. And obviously, don't forget to tune into our Challenger games that are coming up next week.
Yeah, next week, the 27th, 29th, and 30th. We're not sure which players we're playing on which day yet, but that has to be determined with our online operations specialist in the next couple of days to sort out these players to know when they're available to play. But make sure to save those 3 dates.
All right, so that does it from us here for our Europe Challenger selection show. Join us after the break when we'll be going over to the North American show. evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Season 2 of the World Championship Series as we find ourselves in the North American Challenger Selection Show. And today we will be determining which Challenger matches are going to be commencing in just about a week's time.
That's right. Looking forward to this. We've just finished up with the European Challenger matches, and now it's time to get ready to see which Premier League player from Season 1 is going to choose from the listed challengers that we have here for Season 2 in North America.
All right, so a little bit of a change up from Europe to America, as since Polt is the reigning champion of Season 1 Premier League, he automatically gets himself a spot back into Season 2. So whereas there would normally be 8 picks in the American region, there will this time be 7 picks. And we can take a look at the 7 Premier League players that are going to be playing things out for you.
Yeah, so we have a pretty nice list of players here. We have Hydra, of course, the finalist from Season 1. We have Kane, a top 8 performer. Then we have Violet, Puck, Huck, Astria, and Suppy, who are going to be looking, hopefully, to get into Premier League once again.
And now let's take a quick look at the Challenger list of players that we have going on here. And some names that you wouldn't expect, while some names that you would here, Sean.
Yeah, you've got to be looking at this list, and 2 names that stand out above the rest easily is Stardust and Jadong. 2 players who have now made it into Challenger through qualifiers, are ready to conquer Season 2. They're not going to be doing this lightly. They're not going to be not going to do this lightly. They're not going to be taking up any easy games. They're just going to be steamrolling, hopefully, towards the finals, because that's their goals.
Yeah, yes it is. All right, so obviously now we can take a little bit of a look at how things are going to be shaping up. So on the left-hand side, we have our Premier League players, and the little boxes to be determined are from the right-hand side, where we have our Challenger players. Our Premier League players will be picking, via seeding, of course, who they actually want to choose when it goes into the process of the Challenger games. So there is a little bit of potential shake-up here, once again.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. There's a couple of ties that we have to sort out, though.
That's true.
As the Premier League players here, the list of 1 to 7, we have 2 ties to sort out first.
All right, yes, and that first tie is between Violet and Puck. So, without further ado, let's head over to our StarCraft 2 online operations specialist in Graham to figure out who is going to be picking first and second out of Violet and Puck.
And the number 3 seed in America it's Puck.
Okay, and the second name to come out of that bowl should be Violet. There, Graham.
I hope it's Violet.
You hope it's Violet.
It's Violet.
It is indeed Violet. So he shall be, that is the 3rd and 4th seeding going down our list here. And
Correct.
now we have another tie down at the very, very bottom between Astrea and Suppy. So let's head over to our peripheral transportation and relocation assistant in Graham.
Thank you for the lovely title, James.
No problem.
Okay. And the number 6 seed in America is Suppy.
All right, so Suppy will be able to pick over Astrea, and let us just confirm quickly the second name coming out of that bowl.
Astrea.
You've been very consistent today, Graham. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so that means now we can move over to our first pick, and it will be, of course, Hydra, placing second throughout the entirety of season number 1, and looking absolutely dominant throughout.
Yeah, and he is just going to pick up the weakest player. There's no doubt in my mind. He's going to... It's funny because he could beat Jadong and he could beat Stardust, but we know he's not going to pick those 2. Why would you pick a dangerous opponent that could eliminate you when you can pick up one of the weaker players here that we have as challengers?
All right, so let's head over to Graham once again to find out who Hydra's pick is going to be here for Challenger.
I don't think this one is going to surprise that many people. The newcomer, welcome to WCS, Zeal.
Oh, the poor guy gets Hydra on his first Challenger game, and not too much surprise there as Graham was mentioning.
No, he's going to pick up one of the couple of weaker players that we have, and Zeal is definitely one. He makes it to the big leagues. He's in the World Championship Series. He's made it to Challenger, but he's playing the finalist of Season 1, and that is the advantage that these guys can have when loading into the next season. And unfortunately, you're picked, and you've got to work very hard for this one. It's not going to be easy, but upsets can happen. Yep. Hydra lost tomorrow in the first game of Season 1 in the round of 32. What happens if he loses here in Challenger?
Yeah, it could shake things up quite quickly. But now we can move over to the second pick here in the American region. It will be My Insanity's Kane. Who is he going to be playing in Challenger, Graham?
Kane will be picking my favorite name to pronounce, Pili Pili.
All right, Pili Pili. Another player that, actually a lot of people don't know too much about, but I think he did beat Scala on his way through the qualifying processes.
That's right, he did. He's an 18-year-old who moved to America at the age of 17 on a green card and is living there and is now ready to compete full-time within the WCS. Funny enough, they have played once before, these two players, and it was in December of 2014. It was a show match which Kane won 4-1. He's a top 8 performer from Season 1, picking up, again, a new player who's debuted within the WCS. It's not going to be easy for the new player, and Kane picking, clearly here, Kane and Hydra picking the two easier of the opponents.
Yeah, Kane looked great in Season 1. He really showed a lot of people that he meant business, that's for sure. So moving into Season 2. Nothing less from him, we're suspecting. Now let's move on to, of course, it was our first tiebreaker, of course, but Puck will be the first one to come out from that. So let's find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger.
Puck wanted to call out the two EG players, they're number 1 and 2, but he's actually gone with the Terran. He's gone with Xenocider.
Okay, so that means that Jaedong was pretty high up on his list as well,
He
correct?
was indeed number 2, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's quite the statement there from Puck. But Puck is one of the reigning strongest American contenders, I would like to say.
Yeah, I'd like to look at this series. It's been very close between them over the years, but this is Puck saying, I'm the number 1, and I'm going to pick you. You're Terran. I'm pretty good against Terran. Puck's definitely had some struggles against Zerg recently. I don't think you want to pit any Zergs from the player pools that he can choose from, so it's good just to go with a very solid pick here, and he's going to be confident with this one.
Yeah, I should think so as well. Looking good so far. All right, now then we can move on to our other player who was tied in 4th place, of course. It is Violet. So let's find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger, Graham.
Player coming back off a very brief retirement. He's picked QXC.
Okay, wow, actually that's quite the fiery match between those two, because Violet didn't have the best of Season 1s, and QXC is certainly someone who can present upsets.
Absolutely, but QXC's just now come back into Heart of the Swarm again. He took a bit of a retirement break thing. One of those
he was working on a
retired
card game.
and then I've come back again. So QXC's back for Season 2 at WCS. Violet, though, I know that he was disappointed in the Season 1 performance, being eliminated in the round of 32 in Premier League. He's going to have his goals set much higher for Season 2, and QXC is just going to be someone in the way. I think it's going to be close, though, still at the end of the day, but Violet should be a favorite.
Yeah, I think he should be as well. I think he should be. All right, now we can move on to another pick here, as we have Hook as our third last representative here from the Premier League in the America. Let's find out who he's going to be playing in Challenger, Graham.
This one might come as a surprise to you, because you mentioned the two names that stood out as that no one would want to pick. And he's actually gone and picked one of them. It's going to be a PvP with Stardust.
Wow!
I thought this might happen. I was looking at the head-to-heads and so on, and one thing that really stood out when looking at them is Puck has always been really good against Protoss, and he's beaten Korean Protoss players in the past. His games against Stardust, overall in series, 1 win for Huck, 3 for Stardust. But every time they've played, it's been very close. 2-1 wins either way. They've played multiple times at DreamHack and at MLGs. So this is an interesting pick. And this is a big call-out, too, for Stardust, who now enters Season 2 of 2015. And Huck is like, well, you got to play me. And I think a lot of fans are going to be highly anticipating that match in this best-of-5.
Yeah, and I think, Hook has come on strides and leaps and bounds in his performances as of late. I mean, look how he did last year in WCS up towards the later stages of it, and now moving on forward. So Hook has a pretty good shot here, I would say. But now we move on to our last 2 players here in the American region, as we have Suppy, who is going to be our first pick out of the 2. So let's find out who he's going to take.
He's only got 2 players left.
This is very curious, because you'd think, based on the 2 players left, that he wouldn't pick Jaedong. Massa is actually his last pick. He's the player Suppy is most scared of. He's picked Jaedong.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Jaedong picked second to last, arguably, here in the process, in a Zerg versus Zerg, in a team kill.
I look at this, and because now we have all the matchups complete, I look at it and I say, Huck has saved Astria. Huck is like, I'll take this one for the team, and I'll take Stardust, because if it wasn't for me, you would have. So this is interesting. Suppy against Jaedong in Azu vs Zerg, definitely going to be hard for Suppy. He's part-time, he's not full-time. This is the return of the Tyrant back for 2015 in WCS, so Jaedong's going to be very keen to do very well within this season. And then the last matchup, Astrid is kind of left with Massa, who is performing better and better the more time goes on. Interesting last couple of matchups.
Yeah, Massa considered to be one of the best players in that region at the moment. So no surprise that he has been kind of left by the wayside until the very end of the proceedings. So very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, all these games are going to be broadcast on the 27th and 28th of April, and it's a good list of players that we have.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. America showing on strong there, with the Koreans actually mixed in as well. So that does it here for our show. We can take a quick look at the matches once again, just to refresh your memory as to what's been going on. Anything that really kind of stands out for you here, Sean?
Just the Huck Stardust game. It's the biggest game out of all of them. There's some other cool ones like Violet and QXC and Suppy and Jaedong, but absolutely Huck calling out Stardust, saving Astria from having to play against him. That's a great Protoss versus Protoss, and I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah, likewise. Those are going to be some good games. But that pretty much wraps things up here for us here at the Challenger Selection Show. A huge thank you for tuning in. Make sure to catch all of the Challenger games that will be coming up in around a week's time. And that does it for us now.